Hi there, business owner, and welcome to the 3Bs podcast, the place where we go beyond the numbers and dive into strategies to help you build a better business one step at a time. I'm your host, Stephanie, a multi-award-winning entrepreneur with over a decade of experience in the bookkeeping and accountancy world. If you're a business owner looking to streamline, grow, and get back the time that you deserve, you're in the right place. We're tackling real-world problems, answering tough questions, and digging deep into business-building secrets in just 15 minutes each week. So are you ready to build a better business with confidence and clarity? Then let's go. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the 3Bs podcast, your go-to CPD certified 15 minutes of motivation, education and inspiration each week. As always, I'm your host Stephanie, and if you're new here, hi, but don't go any further. You need to go back to episode 115 to learn about the 4 different types of introvert in order for this episode to make sense. And if you haven't yet done the quiz and found out which of the 4 types of introvert you are, go and do that too, because that will really help you take the strategies that are in these 4 episodes and implement them into your business your way, depending on the type of introvert that you are. The link to the quiz will be in the show notes. It will also be on social media, and if you came out as a social introvert, you need to go back to episode 116. If you were a thinking introvert, it's episode 117, and if you came out as an anxious introvert, it's episode 118. If you came out as a restrained introvert, you're in the right place. Episode 119 is just for you to help you build a better business. This is the last one in our series. It's the final of the 4 types, and my fiance is a huge restrained introvert, and I love being able to see the things in him and make little suggestions of strategies to help him in his business life and in his employed role, but working towards his introverted strength. So if you don't like being rushed into making decisions, if you need time to warm up to new people or new ideas, prefer to observe before jumping in, then you're most likely a restrained introvert. I like to call it the not the morning person introvert, because it is people who just take a little while to get going. But once they get going, they're away. And I really feel like not being a morning person is a really good example of that. Restrained introverts aren't talked about as much, but they're the steady, thoughtful, long game players in business. And once they get moving, they are absolutely unstoppable. And the thing is with restrained introverts is they don't tend to show stereotypical social introversion at all. Like they're what you may call an extrovert. They're not anxious about being in a social situation. They don't actively avoid social situations. Restrained introverts are usually the life and soul of the party, but they are calm, measured and deliberate. Everything they do is not driven by impulse. They take their time to think things through and act with intention. They are usually the type of person who won't speak in a group straight away, but when they do, everyone's going to listen. You're going to be the main focus. You won't launch something overnight, but when you do launch, it's solid, it's thought out, and you do take the action. In business, that's incredibly powerful. But being a restrained introvert has its challenges too, as with all of the 4 types of introverts. And in a world that rewards speed, noise, and this constant visibility, it can feel like you're failing as a restrained introvert because you like to pause. You don't stop, you do still take action, but you like to pause. And newsflash, you're not. You're just playing a different game, and it works just as well. So let's go through some strategies that can help restrained introverts move their business forward and start ignoring the social media trends and TikToks that everyone is telling you that you have to do, because they don't fit you. The first strategy for restrained introverts is to own your pace before someone else sets it for you. You are most productive when you're not rushed. You're most productive later in the day. So instead of trying to keep up with fast-moving trends, the latest TikTok dance, set your own timelines and protect them. What you want to build in your business, do it your way. And don't be swayed by social media gurus and other people telling you how to do things and that things should be done quickly and you should follow the trends and you should use the trending audios and do the latest TikTok dance. Try doing things like mapping out your quarter before the world tells you what to do. So before the trends have even become a thing, map out your quarter and stick to it, because that way you're less likely to be distracted, you're less likely to be swayed off course. Your quarter is planned out before the quarter happens, and you can then follow the plan rather than being pulled in all different directions by the latest trends and whoever's shouting the loudest on social media at the time. You can also try giving yourself more time than you think you need, because as a restrained introvert, you will often take longer to do things because you think before you speak. Like a thinking introvert, you tend to go slower, but use that space that you give yourself to do it well, to do a great job, to do everything at a high standard. And also, one of the biggest things you can do to protect your own timeline is saying not right now, and don't feel guilty about it. I think people think fast is better, and fast isn't better. Right is better. And you thrive when you're given space to build properly. Restrained introverts, if given the space to build, will create something really, really clever. We'll create something fantastic. And as a restrained introvert, you'll do your best work when you're not pushed. Unlike those that need the deadline, you need to give yourself more space to make sure you're done well before the deadline, because when you start to rush, things get sloppy, and fast is not better in that case, and right is better. One of my favourite sayings is, there's cheap, there's fast, and there's good, and you can pick 2 out of 3. If you're a thinking introvert, fast is not one of them. If you're one of the other types of introvert, then you can pick the other 2. Strategy number 2 is to build quietly and then reveal confidently. Now, restrained introverts often hesitate to share things publicly, not because they're not ready, but because they're still getting used to the idea themselves. And also, what often happens is, once you've shared something publicly, you've given yourself that deadline, where actually if you give yourself a soft deadline that you know you can extend by a few days or a few weeks, you're going to not feel as stressed, and you're actually going to build something of greater quality because you've given yourself the time and space to do that. So strategy number 2 is to create in private and then launch in public. And by then you'll have the confidence to do so. You don't have to share every step of the process. You can build quietly, refine it behind the scenes, tweak it, beta it, whatever you need to do. And then once it's launched into the public eye, you're ready, you're confident, it's time to go. It's like this episode series, it's like this quiz. I built it behind the scenes. I was sitting on it for a little while, a couple of weeks or so, and then once I knew it was ready, or 99% ready, I then started teasing it on social media. So sort of 2 days before I knew the first of these 5 episodes were going out, before episode 115, explaining the 4 different types, I knew it was 99% there. I'd built the full quiz, I'd built all wrote all the emails, I'd scheduled all the sequences, I'd gone in and done all the back end work, I'd made sure it was all right, I'd got a friend to test it, I had sent it to a couple of other business owners who I really wanted their opinion, to beta it, to give me feedback on it, and then by the time you see it, by the time I start teasing it's coming, it's actually already there. And for restrained introverts, that often helps as well. I think of this when you think of the music industry. So if you think of Louis Tomlinson, One Direction, Taylor Swift, they would all do the same thing as they go, here's a new album, here's a new song. You didn't know they were working on it, you didn't know what was going on behind the scenes, and they would just drop it, or they would start dropping their promo for it out of nowhere. There was no big announcement, no building in public, and no pressure to then do so. Just, here it is, it's done, it's incredible. And I think that's really powerful in its own right. And you may not have a business that's in the music industry, you may have one, but you may be in a business where you are product-based or service-based, and you may not want to tell everyone you're about to release that thing until it's ready, or you might just want to drop it and go, it's ready, here it is. And both things work really well. And if you're a restrained introvert, I think it's important for you to create that in private and then launch in public confidently, because that confident launch definitely sits well with your audience. And finally, strategy 3, focus on depth over frequency. You don't need to post daily. You don't need to speak constantly either. Restrained introverts do best when they choose depth over volume. So instead of 10 rushed reels, have one brilliant blog, one long form piece of content. Have one thoughtful conversation with a hot lead instead of chasing 10 mediocre conversations of warm leads. Strategy 3 is to create fewer, better things. Restrained introverts don't need to create more. They just need to create really in-depth, brilliant things, less frequency, but by giving much more depth and value. So it could be monthly deep dive emails instead of those weekly newsletters. It could be evergreen offers with long-term value, so you're not constantly having to go through that launch process time and time again. a few solid client relationships that grow over time rather than lots and lots of clients. And we run that way at ABCS UK. So we have no more than 25 clients at a time, because that is the level we set where our client relationships are paramount. We still want to know the ins and outs of every single person that we work with. We still want to have those quarterly meetings. We still want to have those solid client relationships, that high touch points, that we know that business owner and that business inside and out. And those client relationships grow over time, rather than me having 150, 200 self-assessments that come in and out the door and we don't see them year to year. It's important to remember that you don't need to keep up. You just need to show up consistently in your way and in a way that works for you. So if you're a restrained introvert, your pace isn't a weakness, and you need to remember that. It's one of the most powerful things about you. You don't rush, you don't react, and you build with intention. That proactiveness of, instead of reacting to trends, of sort of setting your own, if you like. When you trust that pace, your business becomes sustainable, calm, and genuinely aligned with you and what you are looking to build. And having something calm and sustainable rather than super fast growth that's very unstable, if you're looking to build a bigger and better business long term, which I presume you are by watching or listening to this podcast, that could be for you if you're a restrained introvert. And as we get to the end of this mini-series about the 4 different types of introverts, if you are yet to confirm your introvert type, or if you've got to the end of it and thought, actually, maybe it's not what I thought, go back and do the quiz again, or go and do the quiz. It will give you your personalised tips based on how you work best. It will give you your results, and if you've listened to the whole series, I'd love to know if you resonated with more than one, if your answers to your quiz changed over time. Sometimes with multiple choice questions, I think when there's 4 different answers, sometimes 2 fit and 2 don't. So go back and have a look at the questions again. It's only 7 questions. It's not going to take you very long to complete the quiz again if you have already done it, or to complete the quiz for the first time if you haven't, and see what type comes out and see if it resonates with you. Once you know what type you are, you can go back and listen to these episodes. If you've listened to the whole series, thank you for being here for this 4-part journey. I've got a feeling that we'll be coming back to this more and more, but for next week we'll go for something totally different. If this has been a useful series, do share with a fellow business owner. Either share episode 115 that explains the 4 different types of introverts, or if you're listening to this episode and thinking, my partner's a restrained introvert, or my bookkeeper's a restrained introvert, or the person that cleans my windows, I'm sure that they're a restrained introvert, send them the link, show them this episode, show them this podcast, so that we can all build a better business. I'd be so grateful if you could just share it with one person this week. That would be really, really helpful for me. I will see you next week for the next episode. Thank you so much for being here. I've been Stephanie. This has been the 3Bs podcast, and I'll see you next week. Bye. And that brings us to the end of another episode of the 3Bs podcast. I hope you found it useful and that you're walking away with some motivation, inspiration, or education to help you build a better business. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and of course connect with us on social media for more insights, tips, and behind the scenes content. Your next step in building a better business is just a click away. I can't wait to connect with you, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye.